Atlanta photography exhibition, Eyes on Atlanta. Eyes on Atlanta series highlights artists, curators whose work reflects the cultural heartbeat of this city. Its people evolving creative landscape. Each exhibition in the series offers a different lens of how photography documents and shapes Atlanta's identity. So I'm super.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but can you picture a plant here?
Oh.
So that people can talk.
Yes, of course. Of course. Is that better?
Not bad.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So with that, I was super excited that David invited me to be a part of this amazing experience to be able to create Lumen. With Lumen, that focuses on light both as material and a metaphor for seeing, remembering, and reimagining connections, place, and history with each other. And it's just been such an amazing experience. My name is Plushette Ellis. If you didn't know, I am the curator of Lumen, and I also serve as Chief Operating Officer for the Walkers and Peters Project Galleries, located in Castleberry Hill in our historic arts district. I also hold a bachelor's from GSU. Woo woo! Go Panthers! And I'm currently studying community leadership at Clark Atlanta University. A double Panther, right? Alongside my curatorial work, I'm a civic community leader and I serve as economic business chair for Castleberry Hill. And I serve on several boards, including Atlanta Art Fair, Atlanta Photography Group, and Arts and Entertainment Atlanta. Over the past few years, I've curated over 15 exhibitions, all rooted in the belief that we bridge creative expression and community through civic engagement. Today, I'm honored to share this space and conversation with Maria L. Kelly. Maria's vision is dedicated to expand how we experience and understand the language of photography. Maria L. Kelly is assistant curator of photography at the High Museum of Atlanta. She has organized over 25 exhibitions and spearheaded initiatives to bring more work by LGBTQIA identifying photographers into her collection. Maria holds an MA in art history from Columbia University, a BA from University of Georgia, and her recent projects include Photography's New Vision, Experiments and Scene.
Now on view.
Now on view. It's an incredible, incredible show. Tyler Mitchell, Idyllic Space, and Underexposed Women Photographers from the collection. Thank you, Maria Kelly, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll explore all of the things that have really conceptualized the vision for Lumen. So a lot of the exhibition's themes are observation, place, environment, Black hair, body, ritual, memory, family, archive, and ritual, queer and trans narratives, light as a subject and spirituality, civic lens through historical record, mixed media, and experimental practices. These threads come together to illuminate the seen and unseen, connecting personal histories with Atlanta's broader cultural record. So we're just going to get right into this amazing, wonderful conversation that I'm just so excited to have with you. And, you know, I'm so honored to be with you here today, just through your work and your stewardship. And you're just so amazing in your field and generous. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Plushette, for inviting me to be here this morning. Thank you all for coming out on a Sunday. I'm really delighted to be here, and I think this exhibition is really impactful and a true execution of your vision, trying to bring community together and different forms of art. So congratulations on it.
Thank you.
So my first question is Lumen, light, is obviously the key for photography. You don't necessarily need a camera to make a photograph, but you always need light. So what drew you to light as a framework and an inspiration for this exhibition? And can you also talk about how you selected the artists and selected the artwork so we have in this space?
Thank you. So Lumen begins with a simple truth that light is the essence of photography, and it's also the essence of connection through all of the themes that I went through. I just felt like I was drawn to, visual framework as emotional, and then also reflect how we see other people, but also through my leadership, being able to create cultural record to preserve Atlanta's history is vital for me, because if we preserve Atlanta history, we preserve art and culture, which it must be invested in, and I'm invested into that vision for the longer conversations that we must have. In selecting the artists, I look for, practices outside of like documenting Atlanta history as we see with some of the works. Um, each each artist used Lumen as like a language to light, through film, digital works, photograms, and sculptural forms, as you see in the exhibition, and how it moves through with tone and rhythm. So a lot of my curatorial practices lens on my connection throughout the years with the artists. So every exhibition can't have every artist that I've ever met in it. Unfortunately, I would love it, but just to stay true with my vision, I often come back to an artist that I've met, and connected with 2 years ago or 5 years ago, when the vision is succinct. So that is, my process with choosing the artist. And as a photographer as well, I know that has always documented history, and it always has been a medium of art to me. So I'm super excited to be able to get the opportunity to dive back into the Rolodex and call artists like, hey, this is the most perfect opportunity for you, to be able to be a part of this experience. Yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I love that, because I think we meet artists in sort of the day-to-day life of being in the arts community. There are so many people, you just log away and you're like, one day there's going to be that opportunity for you. Just wait, it's going to happen. So yeah, this is nice to see. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. For you, Maria, at the High, you oversee a amazing, extensive photography collection that spans from historic to contemporary work. Some of the artists are in this exhibition are also in that permanent collection. What goals guide your approach to collecting and exhibiting photography today?
So every museum is going to be different. Every curator is going to have different goals. So I can really only speak to what we're doing at the High, and my own personal desires. But at the High, we have a collection of more than 9,000 photographs, which maybe people will be surprised about. We are the largest collecting area at the museum. And so with that, you can't collect everything. You can't be covering every moment of art history of photography. You can't cover every single movement or, artist. So we kind of try and collect to our strengths. And our strengths are documentary work. We very much are trying to represent Southern photography, because what better place to have a stronghold of Southern photography than the High? We have contemporary work and a newly kind of burgeoning experimental section as well. So we kind of try to angle our acquisitions to already augment the strengths that we have, just so it doesn't become too buried and dispersed. Obviously, we don't have tons of funding, so most of our acquisitions come to us as gifts. Either donors will buy from artists and then donate to us, or there will be some other way that a collector is maybe ready to part with parts of their collection. And we can't accept everything, but we are trying to always sort of build the collection out. So that covers a bit of the acquisition side of things. Also, with the initiative that you mentioned in the intro, I launched this initiative to try and collect more photography by queer makers into the collection. A couple of years ago, we're making slow progress, but I realized a few years ago that it seemed like we had kind of a lack of that voice in our collection. So I really want to try and write that and kind of incorporate that more into the collection. Beyond acquisitions, with exhibitions personally, my favorite kind of show is what we have on view right now, which is a collection-based show. Being able to dive into the storeroom and into the database and see in these 9,000 plus photographs, what do we have? What haven't people seen in a while? What are the new histories that we can tell? And so the show that I have up right now, Photography's New Vision, it's 100 years of photo history. But I brought it through to the present day because I want to already take like people working in Atlanta and other voices or people that maybe wouldn't be thought of in this tradition of the New Vision and expand photo history to include these new practices or these new voices. So for me, that's really what's important. And I think the final note with this is you kind of have to have a balanced schedule, at least at the museum, make sure we are, I think we like to say we want to have regional importance and national relevance. So you don't want to just be showing necessarily like Southern artists. You also want to bring in those international names, those national names, but you don't want to sort of neglect one side or the other. And then we have to pause and say, okay, have we done solo exhibitions a lot recently? Let's have a group show. Have we done mainly contemporary? Let's do historic. So it's kind of a lot of different levels that we're trying to plan our schedule. That was a long answer.
No. We balance a lot within our landscape, just wanting to push us to become truly an arts mecca, which we know we are, but an arts capital. So your work is integral to that vision. So I appreciate that. So the long answer for the long game is always okay.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I was really impressed. We walked through the show on Friday together, and I was really impressed by the wide variety of display techniques and materials in this show. It feels very much like the artists here and you as a curator are looking to sort of push photography past its like traditional framed work as we see it in this space with a lot of the pieces. Can you tell me what drew you to this more sort of expanded approach to photography?
Yes, I feel like photography can just expand beyond the frame, and that I love when the work breathes, especially when it can connect to the senses. For me, photography is more than a captured image and a projection, but it is captured through all mediums. We see a lot of amazing art through different mediums, but those are projections from photos. Most paintings can't happen without a photograph. And I wanted to be able to expand that narrow point of view when it comes to what encompasses a photograph, and to be able to illuminate, hence the name Lumen, to shed a light on different ways that can be received in this way. Yes.
Okay, the next one.
Oh, yes. It's my turn. Your practice? Yeah, no. Yes. How do you see photography engaging with broader cultural narratives, whether around identity, community, or memory? In what ways that feels distinct from other mediums?
Part of the reason why I love photography and why I specialize in it is it does feel so distinct from other mediums. I think it's kind of thought of as the new kid on the block a lot of the time. I mean, in museums, photography is still only kind of gaining traction as art, which
Yes.
hurts, but it's
I
happening.
know,
It's
hurts
gonna happen.
so bad. Hurts so bad.
So I think one of the strengths of photography, which sometimes is also its weakness, is sort of the bodies of work that have to be made to really like communicate a theme or a story. Maybe a painting or a sculpture can kind of stand on its own within an artist practice, but often so much in photography, you kind of need like at least 5 pieces to really understand what somebody's getting at. Like, what's that story they're trying to tell? What's that history that they're tapping into, or that community? And so at least at the High, that's something we also try to do, is not just acquire one piece by somebody, because with photography, you really need to see more. And I just don't know if that's really the same as other mediums. So I also think with photography, especially in terms of identity, community, and memory, I'm personally really interested in archives. I think, whether that's personal archives that people can go back into and mine and sort of reflect and think about what they're finding in their own archive and in their own stories, or the city's archive, but also maybe it's people finding, like vernacular photos in a thrift store and approaching those with some other new vision. I think there are just so many ways you can kind of engage with both your own history and then others in the work. And then I think finally, as much as it's been proven to us over and over again that photography doesn't necessarily tell the truth. I think we still always have that thought on first, look that like, oh, this is the truth. This is how this looked. Like photography has that element of like, we took a picture because it happened, even though, obviously this is not always the case.
Yeah.
But I do think that seed of wanting to believe it at first look can kind of help maybe people buy into the story or buy into what is being documented, even if it's maybe sometimes not always the right impulse. Okay, for you, your curatorial practice is known for bridging art with community and civic engagement. Can you talk about how Lumen fits in with the Eyes on Atlanta series that you defined for us at the beginning? How does the show shape that commitment in documenting and shifting community narratives?
Definitely, I wanted to bring more visibility to the different ways that we can actually experience a photo in this way, but also education. I feel like, the value in photography comes present when people are actually educated on how it's integral to a collection, it's integral to an archive, the techniques, shooting in large format, being in the dark room, it's I take ownership in community and the way that we are present and the way that we show up. So a lot of the work stems on that community work that centers around making us an art capital as well. So as much as, the visibility from each other, we see like each other like being visible and getting our accolades. I feel like it's up to me to make sure that we're in front of the best opportunities. Every time that I have an opportunity to curate a show or to connect with someone who has a vision, particularly wanting to, be able to collect a certain medium or to connect with a certain narrative, an artist narrative. So with this micro exhibition, it spotlights, the local creative community. It's a platform that emerging and established photographers are in to experiment through the shorter and more intimate showings. That's why I'm so grateful for APG and opening their space and extending in this way. They're so generous as well with that. But as my own civic engagement, it's the heart of everything I do, whether it's, for Castleberry Hill or the Arts and Entertainment Association or the Carter Center. My work really lives in a space where art meets community. I see curating as a civic act, pathways for inclusion and access, and Lumen embodies that as far as both art and reflection of responsibility.
Curating as a civic act. I love that. That's really good. Keep that in mind. Why did
Quote
you?
that. It's on a t-shirt.
Why did you feel like it was crucial to foreground women and non-binary photographers in Atlanta in our current moment? And what do you hope that audiences who see this show will carry forward both about the work and the city's cultural identity after seeing this exhibition?
I feel like in some ways that, foregrounding these artists weren't just important, but it was necessary. And a lot of these amazing artists aren't highlighted for their contributions. And with the show Lumen, it takes it's different aspects to it. It's my curatorial vision to illuminate these different practices and these different artists, but also they're here to be able to show the different themes and express through their practice, and through, spirituality, through storytelling, to the audience. So I feel like we can build a powerful vision together as far as photography being emotional, political, and deeply human. But I hope the audience leaves with something more thoughtful about photography and more thoughtful about, all of these amazing artists practice who, they may know, especially from a different medium, or they have more insight to their work, but also take care with their work and be more thoughtful when expressing their thoughts about photography in this climate we're in, where we must support artists and we must engage in dialogue that is helpful, that is also critical. But we also have to invest in each other. So I'm invested in the reward of the artist being able to use this moment as a conduit within, these four walls to be able to create and expand the history.
Yeah, I do feel like in this present moment, it is so important to be investing in the arts and the artists that we're working with, on every level. Just being able to sort of back up with what we're doing and what's important.
Yes.
Okay, one final question before we turn it over to the artists. When we were walking through on Friday, I absolutely love that you have a playlist that is specifically created to go with this exhibition. Can you tell me what role music plays both in your curatorial process, but also how you want visitors to experience the show?
So my curatorial practice is I curate to the senses and I curate for memory. I love being able to connect sensory moments within the exhibition before you even experience the work. When we think about memory, we think about how we can, we can touch, we hear that song that reminds us of our favorite moments in history. But also I have a deep appreciation and love for music. My parents were definitely invested in me knowing the archives, the having a deep emotional attachment to music has been, something that I've taken with me forever. My playlist that these playlists that I often make with each and every one of my exhibitions, it really gets me emotional when I go through like my curatorial documentation and just like actually playing the songs and knowing where I was and knowing who came to my show and just receiving the love and being able to remember those warm moments. I feel like when we think about memories, good, bad, or sad, it's just like warmness, and also it's just very cinematic to me just to have like a soundtrack through your journey and your personal experience. So it's like the soundtrack to my life through this documentation. And music is the heartbeat of how I curate. Every exhibition has been like that. The Lumen playlist includes artists like Sade, Jill Scott, Alpha Miss, John Coltrane, Layla Hathaway, Donny Hathaway, Erica Badu. Yeah, sounds that move like light itself. The playlist mirrors the emotional pace of the show, soulful, reflective, layered, just as light guides through the visual experience of this exhibition. When people walk through Lumen, I want them to feel the rhythm of the work and not just observe it. Sound creates and it lingers, and the music helps like visitors carry the feeling of the show long after they left to create that memory. And music just always defines that memory for me.
I think cinematic is right. It feels like, is there a song that should be playing when I'm at a certain work,
Yes.
I also think I want to pitch to the High that we're going to have playlists in the galleries now. Maybe they'll be open to it.
I really enjoyed this conversation surrounding Lumen and intentionalizing with you in this way. So I just want to thank you for being so generous with your time and expanding the conversation of photography.
Thank you.
Now we get to the wonderful, amazing artists that we have in this exhibition. I've chosen 22 amazing artists to capture the essence of Lumen, and I can't wait for you to hear about their practice and their narrative. So I will begin with Christina Price Washington.
Who looks like
And then we'll have Beth Lilly right after you. Yes, yes, your work is right there. Let's go. Yes.
Need to hand them
Come
out.
up here.
Do you mind,
Yeah,
going
come up here.
across
Yeah,
the
come up
table?
here.
There you go.
Okay, hi, I'm Christina Fife Washington. I made those pieces with rocks from the wall over there. The practice is actually, oh.
Um, my overall practice is, I guess, I'm always trying to figure out how to reshape the idea of photography, or what photography is from the 90s on. And I feel like, I don't know how many years back that was. I don't rather not do the math, but I'm kind of feeling I'm kind of making a little circle coming back around by always applying some form of graphite or something dark over my photographs. So this series is a series where I worked with a 4x5 pinhole camera that I then printed out. And again, the graphite and the Japanese ink is always so calling my name, and I'm starting to apply on it to the photographs. In a way, the more I work on like that, I feel the photographs become more and more precious, and that's a warning call for me to like step back and work the other way around again. So that's kind of my tension. Is that all?
Yes, 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 yes. Definitely seeing your work in the permanent collection at the High really inspired, and also just your relationship to the community really was one of my driving forces to have you in this conversation. Your work is so beautiful. I think everyone can hear me. I think your work is so beautiful and extensive, and it is definitely translating that, you know, we can surpass what we can receive from photo in these different ways. So I just wanted to highlight you. You know, artists are very shy and she's a rock star and superstar. So I just wanted to give you your flowers.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations.
Thank you. Now I feel like I'm getting a flower. Can I? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Beth Lily. Woo!
Hello. Hi. I have two groups in this show. Back in the left corner, the very last one back there is a tree and a person, and then here is another tree and another person. So this is work from two different series, obviously. One of the obvious things that they have in common is they're both going to the streets and photographing what I find there. But there's a very different kind of connection that I'd like to point out. The trees was a series I called Monsters. And it was the first time I really came up with the idea that what I was pursuing was investigating the intersection of choice, chance, and circumstance. And that in every life, you are born to a certain circumstances and chances and things, but what you become, your life, is the summation of the choices that you make. These trees that I was photographing, I was going through the streets of Atlanta and looking for the street trees that had been cut by the power company, and the unusual ways that they reacted to that, how they would bend and move to continue to live, to continue to be. And so they had these very unusual shapes, and it was monster in the way of like Frankenstein is a monster, is something interfered with by man that becomes unnatural, not what it's meant to be. So that arises a lot of compassion. The photographs of people in the cars also come out in compassion from driving on interstates and looking at other drivers and seeing them lost in thought. And I use driving on the interstate as a way to work through personal issues. And I was wondering if they were doing the same thing. So this is people being caught up in that same process, but in that reflective moment. And I like to think that they're in the moment where they're going, what has my life become? What do I want my life to be? And, held in suspension in that moment, we're really thinking about those choices that we're making and how we can alter it to be something that we aspire to. Okay.
Thank you.
I must drug that off.
I got you.
Thank you.
Next we have, let's see, Rachel Warren. Woo!
Dual-handed.
Mhm.
Hello, I'm Rachel Warren. My pieces are the two light boxes over here. My general practice speaks to the archive, memory, as well as mourning and death rituals. And these two pieces particularly are family members who have passed when I was very young, and going through a process myself to gain more time with them through photography. So the photos of them are from my personal archive. And through the 4x5 positive slides, I double exposed myself and presented them in this format as film in order to speak to a narrative of photographic truth, and gaining more time to the people we can no longer access.
Yeah, wonderful. And also, let's just talk about the craftsmanship and talk about your journey with that, because you have a most amazing family that has taken you through the journey of how to really master this craft. So I would love for you to tell the audience about that too.
Sure. A part of my personal practice is that I'm very interested in photography that should be seen outside of a flat narrative, something that speaks to being seen in person based on like a physical presence. And my work started with grieving my grandparents who I lost, and taking me through that narrative of trying to understand people who I only had tangible memories, fleeting thoughts, or the archive to understand them. And my process itself, I found really interesting that I found photography as an artist, because my grandfather created so much of my family archive that I have now. And then my father was also a photographer, and I inherited his film camera. And so to me, it just seems like a continuation of these like processes that are meant to be just down the line and generational. And so I think my work continues to speak in this generational way, that I'm just continuing to pass the torch as we think about age and time in a context.
Thank you, Rachel. Next, we have Miriam Moma. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariam. I'm so thankful to be here and to have my work exhibited here with you, Plushette. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I will talk generally about my practice, and then I'll specify around the piece that I created for this exhibition. So I'm primarily a visual artist. I've been working for a very long time with paper. I have a bachelor's of architecture, so literally I fell in love with paper, the texture of it, the smell of it, the oldness of it, the newness of it, the sheen or matte feel, and literally fell between the sheets. And since then I've been practicing as a collage artist. In the last 22 months or so, I have expanded my practice to include large-scale murals, installations, public art, and it's been such an incredible, exciting process. For this exhibition, I was so honored to be a part of the conversation because a lot of my work I have, in collage, I have kind of brought together these disparate elements, pieces of paper, mixed media, discarded items, to tell stories. My process is very much subtractive. I kind of start with a lot and I filter it down and hone it down to only things that I believe will strengthen the narrative and the body of work and the story. So for Lumen, I wanted to experiment and play with something new. My piece is right after Grace Keese's, called and titled The Light Within. It is my traditional collage style. But for me, I went beyond in experimenting with actually using light to make some of the textures that you see in the piece. The central anchoring piece is a cyanotype that I exposed with light. And my work, generally, you will find like florals in the body of work, most of the work that I create. When it's not there, it's for a reason, but also when it is there, it's speaking to something directly. The floral piece that you see there is severally abstracted. I hand painted it and then drew it and then cut it out and then used it as the kind of to create that negative space on the cyanotype. I loved seeing that process and how it turned out. I love the layering of all of the pieces that come together in that piece. That piece is titled The Light Within. I definitely wanted to highlight Atlanta. So that's one of my photographs there of the city of Atlanta on inside the blazer. You'll find that a lot of my work has like layers and stories around fashion, which is very kind of personal to my language as a collage artist. I wanted to also speak to materials that you wouldn't necessarily put together. So as part of that, after the anchoring piece of the cyanotype, you'll find this crushed glass that I collected during a residency in Portugal for sculpture design. Yeah, so that was really amazing to be able to put that piece together and have it turn out that way. And with collage, you have a vision in your brain, but you also, I feel like, at least in my practice, I allow for these serendipitous, happy moments of accidents even to happen and to define what the piece ends up being. So thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Next, we have Madison Nunes.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Madison Nunes. My pronouns are they, he, and it feels like such an incredible opportunity to be here with both of you, but also in a room full of Atlanta legacies on these walls. My process, just to touch on that a little bit before speaking to the work directly, is concerned with the intimacies of alternative family structures and also expanding on the neurodivergent and queer histories that are at a risk for collapsing in their complexity. And the work that I have in the show, so it's these two pieces and then the piece on chiffon in the back with chains. These three pieces are from a body of work called It's All a Song here. It's still very much in process, but the goal of this body of work is to posit that Southern queer is a specific identity within the lexicon of LGBTQIA identities, not just because we're queer and we're here and we're in the South, but because there's something about being queer here that feels different than being gay elsewhere. There's a closeness to the land, a closeness to the traditions, both good and bad, the way that we react to those, that informs how we show up in the world. And so through this kind of process that I've been working on for about a year now, I put an open call out into the world and I asked for people to answer some questions. And then those people got in contact with me and we set up interviews. And during those interviews, we go through kind of their backstory, their relationship to the South, both good and bad, right? Because we know that our landscape here is fraught. It's more complex than just what it looks like on paper. And so then from speaking with them, we kind of create this base identity, this memory that informs the work that I make with them. That's really something that's central to my practice. Photography has this really powerful capability to inflict upon others. It's really easy for us to put a camera in our hand and tell someone how their story is going to go or tell them how we're going to perceive them. And so being able to work with the people that I'm working on in this body of work and have them tell me information that I need to build something around them felt really paramount to the work that I'm making. The chiffon piece on chain is actually, oh my goodness. Let me not break everyone on Zoom. Okay. That piece is an excerpt from a larger collection. So it's typically when it's exhibited with a sound sculpture. It is a downspout balancing on a pile of gravel. And it plays an audio loop of someone arriving to a queer house party. And the piece is called In Perpetuity, We Are Always Arriving. When I show it separately, it's referred to as an excerpt. The downspout is presently on view by appointment through the Creatives Project. If anybody feels inclined to go listen to that loop, you can. And I think that's that. The project is ongoing, so if anybody in this room feels inclined to talk to me after this, if you'd be interested in participating in this body of work, I would love to speak to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Rita Harper, thank you.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? My name is Rita Harper, and I'm a documentary photographer and photojournalist from Atlanta, Georgia, East Point to be more specific. And within my practice, I document community, but more specifically the elders, the youth, businesses, specifically Black-owned businesses, and everything in between, and just preserving those personal narratives. And so to these two photographs over here to the right, mine is the large photograph over here with the couple with the braids. And just a little bit of a backstory. I had a friend who asked me to come out and double dutch one day at Grant Park. And I was like, I do not know how to double dutch, but okay, I'll come. And I come to the park, but immediately I was entranced by this couple. They were dancing, they had a blanket laid out, you know, like picnic items and things like that. And they were just frozen in time with each other. Like no one else mattered. They didn't see anybody else. They were just so enamored with each other's presence. And it really struck me. But the crazy thing was, actually, I did not have my camera with me at the time. I was like, oh, goodness gracious. You know, as a photographer, sometimes you're like, let me just be in the moment. And then those are always the moments where you're like, I should have brought my camera. So I actually asked them, I was like, hey, I would love to get a photograph of you guys, but I left my camera at home. I shoot on a Pentax 6x7 medium format, and it's so heavy to lug around. I was like, okay, if I go back home, would you guys still be here? And they were like, absolutely, of course. So I drove all the way back home, which is about 15 minutes, and I came back and they were still there. They were still just sitting like, and I don't even think it was me. They were just really enjoying each other's company as if time didn't exist. And it was so beautiful. And so I came back and I was able to get this photo of them. And then directly to the left, we have this photo that I titled OG Cleveland Avenue. And this photograph in particular is really important to my practices. This is when I just started to take to the streets and just document my neighborhood in East Point. And I would just go around and just ask anyone that I felt something special about their spirit or their character that made me want to document them. So in Cleveland Avenue, there's a Walmart and then there's a liquor store like that kind of sits on the corner, and there's an open parking lot. And on this particular day, I was just walking by and I saw these guys just hanging out, just, you know, just having a good time with each other. Again, just the minimalism, you know, of life, just some beer, some cigarettes, some laughs, and they were just really enjoying themselves and just having a really good time. And I asked for his portrait and he allowed me to. And I think it's funny because initially he was just like, what do you, you know, like, why do you want my photograph? But I just found him to look so wise, and there was just so much behind his eyes. And so this is one of the first photographs, and this was in about 2018. And I knew from this moment forward that I wanted to be a documentary photographer, a photojournalist, and dedicate my practice to documenting community. So both of these photos are very important in that way to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Hanlon.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you, Plushette, so much. I appreciate you. And thank you for spending time with our work. And thank all of you. I respect everybody here so much. I'm so honored to be in this company. My pieces are the two on silk, here and here. And they're named based on their time and place, if you want to look at the name. I actually mainly do a documentary and journalism as well, but one of the reasons I wanted to display these is because it was focused on women photography, and you don't often see women doing astrophotography, especially long exposure astrophotography, because it's actually quite dangerous. It requires you to be in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, standing there on the side of the road, or sometimes in the wilderness where there's wild animals. I've been in all sorts of situations with these. And so I wanted to highlight that some of us are doing that work. And then the other reason is because, when you do, another thing that's different about these that you'll notice, you probably have seen photos like this before. And they probably looked a lot more perfect than this. And that's because a lot of people also who do this kind of work use AI, they do composites, they'll shoot many hundreds of photos over hours to get perfect light streams, perfect exposure, and then they will edit it to perfection as well. And those photos are gorgeous, beautiful photos. But as a journalist, a documentarian, as somebody who's very interested in the truth, I did want to show that's a 15-minute long photo. So I wanted to, and I do this with all my long exposures, I wanted to show what that 15 minutes really does look like. And also as commentary on our impact, because that light you'll see in the background, that haze coming up, that's Atlanta. That's the light of Atlanta. I'm facing south taking this picture. And that's a car driving through, and it could only be 15 minutes because if I had captured two cars, it would have been overexposed. So I had to time it exactly right to get the one car coming through, wait until the next car was coming so that I could get the stars in motion as well. And so even the light you see on the trees, I could have edited that to perfection so that you could see all the leaves. But that is where the light actually hit those trees from the car. So I just want to highlight that because I think sometimes when we see photos like this, we think, oh, they're trying to create like a screensaver or something. But no, this is part of my bigger work of just understanding the world, understanding another version of reality, a reality that maybe we don't see initially, but that if we spend some time and allow the photograph to sort of be painted with light, you get this other deeper truth. And one of the reasons I wanted to print it on silk is because I've always put a lot of mine in frames, and I think some photos work in frames well, but some photos for me just don't. They felt trapped in a frame. So I wanted this to be something that you could actually touch. And I also wanted to print it on a natural fiber because it's part of my larger work of reminding us of the life underneath all of these things. In both of these images, you see all the things humans have created, humans are impacting, how we're moving through and creating these scenes. But there's life, there's worms that create silk, there's plants, there's humans, there's all this life underneath all of that. And so I just want to remind all of us what is real and what's not real. Because right now in the world, we give more importance to what's not real than what is real.
Thank you. I would like to bring up next, Melanie Brown.
Hi, guys. I'm gonna try to talk slow. When I get nervous, I feel like I talk fast. But thank you for having me in this show, and thank you for lending your time for to view our work and speak with us today. My name is Melanie Brown. I'm from Houston, Texas. My work explores the Black family dynamic. I'm currently in the thick of it in my thesis, where I'm exploring rememory through using archival images and kind of bridging the past with the present. So with my two pieces that I have here today, they are of my family, my nephew and my little sister. And this just kind of speaks to how I love to document family dynamics. I think bringing like a beauty to the mundane is what I'm interested in. Those moments where they may not seem significant, but you can connect with them through the gaze or just the feeling that they give you of like memory whenever you view them. So these are kind of funny because my mom has a thing about balloons, and growing up, we never got to play with balloons, but now my nephews get to play with balloons. So it's just kind of like having all those like family dynamics that change over the years. And through that, finding acceptance. And so, yeah.
I want to touch on something before you leave. So your second piece really spoke to me once we start going through images together. The second image actually reminded me of a portrait of myself that my grandmother took in my parents' first apartment in Oakland, California in the 1980s. I'm not going to tell y'all which year. And it reminded me of myself and the smile and the sun, just, you know, you can see it through the hair, and it's just amazing. And it really touched something. One, it touched that memory point that I told you guys about, because sometimes in the exhibition it can touch points for me too, which I feel like is just so fun as a curator. But I just wanted to thank you for sharing that work with us and with me.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Courtney Brooks. Yes. Both. Both.
Greetings. I'm Courtney Brooks, and this is my piece back here. It's called Good Hair, and it's a part of my Journey with Black Girl series. And I wanted to, when I talked to Plushette, you talked about having an installation to, you know, accompany my photo. So this piece, I normally, when I do photography, it's normally when I travel, and I love black and white. So this is since 2018, the first time I've actually printed color. And I just love it. These are three of my students. I teach kindergarten through 8th grade art. And it's like the first week of school, and they had their hair freshly done, and the colors of the beads just popped out. And I love the different styles and just the line work and all the things. But I actually took these are 5 different photos that I put together. So each little girl was a photo by themselves. And then I was at the beauty supply store getting hair for, you know, I was getting braids that time. And I took a photo of all the colored wigs in the background, just, you know, drawn to the color scheme. But I also wanted to show like the confidence in a little girl that we should embrace our own hair texture. And then, but then also you can still have fun with it, right? So with the braid around it, it's different colors. And so we can still embrace our natural hairstyle and have different colors and have fun with it. And so the braid is part of a bigger piece called This Crown Belongs to Us. And you can actually see that installation at London Contemporary. It's up till February of next year. So yeah.
Yes. Next up to the stage is Charity Hamidila.
Hey, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, to the tables like this? Is that good? Okay. Okay. Thank you guys for being here and just sharing space. Like, I'm grateful to be even seen in this space. Because I feel like I'm just seeing myself as coming into a photography space. So thank you for seeing me. I really appreciate that. Within my pieces, well, let's start with my practice. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I primarily work in large scale murals and have been really fixated on painting for and tattooing and identity for over about 20 years now. But within my practice lately, just like Rachel before me, another photographer, I got some cameras. My grandfather had passed, and I got his cameras. We're from Rochester, New York, so all the big photographers, that's Kodak. And so I got all his Kodak cameras, and I also got a collection of just the process of him documenting my family and his friends, all the way from his migration from Arkansas to Rochester to Detroit, all these spaces. So within seeing that, I started seeing like a new chapter of my purpose, and a new chapter of how I was going to see my craft. And I wanted to come into documentation, but come into documentation in a way that I felt represented who I was now. And so in the mix of all these mediums and all these things, and I think these pieces are really a reflection of who I'm becoming now. All those mediums and how I approached how I was looking at imagery and telling stories, I was like, oh, I'm totally a mixed media collage artist, but I want to hone in more on the use of my photography, but doing it in a playful manner that not only reminds me of memories from my family and childhood, but makes me bring light into a new way of how I'm focusing on my subjects and my stories. And so within these pieces, I wanted to, I have the light within. I just found my spark and closer to God. I feel like I wanted to play with the idea of light and us being light, but also talk about the shadows and the stories behind those that make the light so important, or us so important as people. And that was it.
Yes, and you can find the most amazing murals from Charity all over the city and continuing on into 2026 as she really interconnects community and her love for that. So for that, I'm truly thankful for your practice. I don't even know how you do so many things. I know we say that to each other, but I'm grateful for you, and I will show you in this light as many times as I can.
Oh, thank you. You're the
Yeah.
best.
Thank you. Next is Evie Lozano. Yeah.
Hi. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Evie Lozano, and I'm a first-generation Indigenous Chicana. I'm really happy and grateful to be in this space. Thank you, Plushette. My piece is this one right here, and this is Mateo, and a lot of my work centers around my identity, my sexuality, my family, and a lot of those themes. And I feel like through intersectionality, you can just find so much inspiration and just so much rich history and just interesting conversations. And so I met Mateo through a mutual friend, and I was just always inspired by the work that he does. And he started the Rainbow Collective in Gainesville, and does a lot of organizing for trans youth and just the community as a whole. And I was like, I really want to shoot with you. And this was actually my first time photographing anybody really ever, or holding a camera, because I primarily do creative direction and styling and do storytelling through that. But I really wanted to challenge myself here. So I shot it on a Pentax, and with the guidance of a lot of my really good friends, I shot this, and we used natural lighting, and we shot at a park in Gainesville. I'm blanking on the name right now, but it was a park that he would go to with his family. And I just wanted to feel really just informal and just really personal. And I remember I did his hair, I did his makeup. I brought a couple options of what he could wear, and we ended up deciding on that collared shirt, which I think was a really good way to go. And then it was gonna start raining, so I was kind of freaking out because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But it ended up working out. We ended up shooting under a little gazebo, and then the light was hitting him really nicely. And yeah, and
I don't know, I just feel like photography is so vital to so many different people, but I feel like specifically highlighting just gender nonconforming and trans people of color is more important now than ever. And I'm just really grateful that this was shot, 2 years ago, and it's, still being seen and shown in spaces like this. So, and being in conversation. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah, thank you.
We have next Wayne Sele. Welcome.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Soleil. This is actually my first time exhibiting. Yeah. So just a little nervous.
And right next to Beth Lily, right next to Beth
And
Lily.
it's definitely a blessing to be
Yeah.
shown and exhibited amongst all of these great photographers, women and non-binary, especially to be next to Beth Lily and Charity as well. Both the artists that I definitely look up to and have seen their work. So definitely honored to be in this space and to be chosen by Plushette to exhibit my work. Like I said, this is my first exhibit, my first artist talk, and I'm just currently in a experiential phase right now with my artwork. I'm multidisciplinary, so my main focus is photography, but I'm also very good at drawing and painting as well. So this is just the beginning of my artwork. Definitely going to evolve into the future. And what's really great about this piece is that this is actually my first piece that I shot in my own home studio. And so I actually just set up the lights myself. It's the second photo up there on the wall. And I invited one of my friends from college to just come by and help me test out my new lights that I have and to see if I could really do this in my own home studio setup space. And the pictures ended up coming out really beautiful, even without the edits on them. But playing with time and space and where I am currently, I rarely do black and white photos. And so this was actually one of my first ones I edited to be black and white, and just to show the contrast of like being in a dark space, but you're trying to step closer just to get to the light. Even if you're just working hard, you can be surrounded by darkness, but even just stepping a little closer, you can still see the light that's out there and available for you. So that's the name of the piece, is Closer. It really invites people to like take a step closer to the piece, to engage with it as well, to kind of see past the darkness and look for the light within the piece. And then even the pricing for it is also a manifestation, and just making sure like 333, it symbolizes growth, self-expression, and being supported by the divine. So I do have like anxiety, as you can see, but just pushing past through it and knowing that I am supported by like my art community really does feel good. Yeah.
And Wayne works alongside of me in the galleries, and she flips all of our gallery walls. She helped me hang and prep and do all the numbers in the gallery space. So she's a rock star. She works long hours in the galleries to make sure that we flip 3 galleries each month, every second Friday during Art Stroll, so we can be amazing and well prepared. And she actually documents, and she does everything for us, along with some other most amazing other gallery assistants as well. But I wanted to highlight you in this show because I wanted to illuminate you as someone who I'm proud to stand next to, but also your path to as well. Thank you.
And then we do also have a new art exhibit coming up this year.
Yep. Second Friday. Look on my page. It's every second Friday. It's the most amazing community event ever, and it's growing. Next, I would love to invite Melissa Alexander.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Alexander. A brief word about my practice. In a real way, I realized from a young child, like I like looking at my parents' photo albums, right? And like looking at the memories and the documentation of everything and asking like, who's this and why are they wearing that and all these questions. So when I pick up my camera, it's very much for the same reason, to still moments, to make them last. And I did start out as a street photographer, but I realized that I liked people knowing when I was photographing them. I liked I liked the intimacy that was formed. I liked the feeling of like it just being me and maybe the other person, in a very quiet, calm, maybe sometimes Jack Daniels filled evening, but I like that, right? And I like understanding who I'm photographing because oftentimes I see that I'm there too, right? And maybe they'll see themselves in me. So my two pieces are Ori Rising right here. And then this one, can't quite see it, but it's called A Gaze So Sweet. And A Gaze So Sweet, I'll start with that one. Claire is the name of the model that I photographed. Claire just looks so innocent and raw and open. And I feel like that's something that we don't get as often as we should in this world, right? Or at least the safe spaces to be so. And then for Ori Rising, in African traditional spirituality, Ifa, the concept of Ori is the spiritual head. Um, and it kind of guides like your character and it guides your destiny and different aspects of that. And so I call it the God mind. It's the God mind is basically when, remember in school and you'd be like, the answer is B, but you would put D, and then the answer was B, right? That's you not following your God mind. So I'm hard-headed. I'm the kind of person that has to go through something rather than taking advice, and I'm working on that. I'm working on that big time. So for this particular piece, I also have a headpiece that's made of cowrie shells, which is currency in some cultures, or was currency in some cultures. And so this idea of the currency of my thoughts, the currency of my foresight, the currency of my intuition, the currency of my feeling, that's what's guiding me towards the light, right? I'm coming from the shadow and I'm moving closer towards whatever that light could be. For someone else, that could be, it's going to be individual, like what that light could be. But for me, I know it's trusting my truest self. And I know it's like really diving into what my superpower is, which at right now, I feel that my superpower is bringing people together and helping them to see that we're not so different, and that we all have something to share. So.
I want to thank everyone for being here today. We have a few artists online too as well. They couldn't be here today, but these narratives that we've talked about will live on, and the conversation hopefully won't stop in here. I appreciate your time, and this has been incredible. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for being generous, Maria, and looking forward to connecting with you all right now. child, one artist is like, I'm parking. I'm like, I can't